Are you being punished by someone else's silence? I don't mean just for a cooling off period, but days, weeks, or even months where someone you care about refuses to speak to you. That feeling is awful, and you're not imagining the pain. Today, I want to talk about something that's rarely named, but deeply damaging: silent treatment as a form of emotional abuse. Now, this isn't just a story about psychology. This is my story. Years of being on the receiving end of someone I care about, their silent treatment. I'll share what I have learned about myself, about them, and about the power we all have to choose a different story. I'll give you a practical framework for protecting your energy, even if the other person never changes. If you've ever felt invisible, desperate for connection, or blamed yourself for somebody else's withdrawal through silent treatment, then this video is for you. Talking about emotional abuse is hard. It's vulnerable. It can bring up old wounds and fresh pain. But I believe that naming things, bringing them into the light, is the first step to healing. So if you feel a lump in your throat or a knot in your stomach as you listen, know that you're not alone. But let me start at the beginning. It was a Thursday. I was chatting on the phone with someone whilst driving home from work. They listened and seemed angry on the phone, and it went silent. I tried to make a joke to break the tension, but it was like talking to a wall. Our phone call ended on a sour note. That night, I laid in bed, replaying every moment. Had I said something wrong? Was it the way I laughed or made a joke? I wrote a text and sent it. I'm sorry if I upset you. Please talk to me. The text was never answered. In fact, they had blocked my number. This wasn't a one-time thing. It was a pattern. Sometimes the silent treatment would last a weekend, sometimes a month. Heartbreakingly, this has been going on for years, with only the most basic transactional words exchanged through another person. I thought it was my fault. Had I said something wrong? Was I too much, too little, too honest? I'd replayed every conversation in my mind, searching for the mistake that triggered this. I'd apologize even when I didn't know what I'd done, just to break the ice. But the silence has continued. And with every round, I felt sad, invisible, and desperate to reconnect. After all, I really loved this person. I remember a similar instance as a young adult. I called to share the news, excited, hoping for congratulations. Instead, I got silence. Days went by, then weeks. No reply. The silent treatment made me feel like I was an anxious 14-year-old, desperate to fix something I didn't understand. The hardest part wasn't even the silence itself. It was the uncertainty, the way it made me second guess every word, every action, the way it made me feel like I was walking on eggshells, never knowing what might trigger the next silent treatment. And the longer it went on, the more I started to internalize it. Maybe I really was too much. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe if I tried harder, was more agreeable, more accommodating, more invisible, I could finally earn their love back. But the truth is, you can't earn love from someone who uses silence as a weapon. You can only lose yourself trying. I started to notice a pattern in other places too. At work, with friends, even in a romantic relationship. People who, when upset or challenged, would retreat into passive-aggressive silence rather than talk things through. Every time, the impact was the same. I felt small, anxious, and desperate to make it right, even when I hadn't done anything wrong. I remember a time in my late 20s, I was in a relationship with someone who, whenever conflict arose, would simply shut down. No words, no explanation, just a cold wall. At first, I thought it was just their way of processing, But over time, I realized it was another version of the same wound, inability to handle their emotions, projected onto me as a punishment through the silent treatment. The silent treatment doesn't just hurt in the moment, it lingers. It actually makes you question yourself. It makes you feel like you're the only one who cares enough to fix things with the person, and that's a heavy burden to carry. Let's get practical. If you've ever been on the receiving end of silent treatment, you know how destabilizing it is. But naming it is the first step. What do you actually do when it happens, especially if it's coming from someone you love or someone you just can't walk away from? If you want a practical framework to help you respond to silent treatment, sign up to my newsletter, aquahaura.com/rhythm. It's a framework I teach my clients on how to recognize and respond to it. I'll send you the framework plus extra stories and support you won't find anywhere else. If you're dealing with silent treatment right now, try this. Write a letter you'll never send. Pour out everything you wish you could say. Remind yourself, this is about them, not me. Tell yourself, I'm worthy of love and connection. Reach out for support. Get a coach or a mentor or talk to a therapist who understands emotional abuse. You don't have to carry the weight of somebody else's emotional immaturity. Because when you're honest about it, the silent treatment doesn't just hurt your feelings, it scrambles your sense of reality. You start to question yourself. You might find yourself replaying every conversation, text, sideways glance. You might start apologizing for things you didn't do just to break the ice. You might shrink, go quiet, tiptoe around the other person, hoping not to trigger another round of silence. And when you grow up with this pattern, it can become your sense of normal. You might find yourself using silence in a passive-aggressive way as a weapon in your own relationships because it's what you learn. But here's the truth. This isn't love. This isn't healthy conflict. This is emotional abandonment, and it leaves damaging scars. I remember the ache in my chest, the way my stomach would drop every time I sensed the silent treatment coming. I remember the shame, the loneliness, the desperate hope that maybe things would be different. The only thing that changed was me when I decided to step out of this pattern. Research shows that being ignored or excluded activates the same pain pathways in the brain as physical injury. A landmark study from Purdue University in America found that social exclusion, like the silent treatment, lights up the anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that processes physical pain. That's why it hurts so much. That's why you can't just get over it. Your body is literally telling you something is wrong. Over time, chronic silent treatment can lead to anxiety, depression, even PTSD. You start to expect abandonment. You start to distrust your own emotions. The good news, you can heal over time. You will understand that you are worthy of love and connection, even if someone else tries to make you feel otherwise. The first step, remember, is naming what's happening. The second step is choosing yourself, even when someone else refuses to choose you. There was a moment years into this pattern that changed everything for me. I saw the pattern for what it was. This wasn't about me. This was about them. Their silence was a reflection of their inability to handle their own emotions. It was like a light bulb moment for me. I didn't have to keep shrinking myself to fit into their version of love. I didn't have to keep chasing or apologizing or begging for attention. I could choose my own peace. For the first time, I didn't chase. I didn't apologize for things I hadn't done. I didn't let someone else's silence define my worth. Instead, I focus on what I could control: my energy, my response, my boundaries, my healing. And slowly the power dynamic shifted. I felt stronger, more peaceful, more myself. Silent treatment feels heavy, like a fog pressing against your skin. Don't spend years trying to earn connection from someone who only knows how to withhold it. There's a grief that comes with that realization, a grief for the relationship you wish you had, a grief for the version of yourself who kept trying, kept hoping, kept shrinking. But there's also freedom, because when you finally name what's happening, you can stop fighting for attention. You can stop twisting yourself into knots, trying to decode someone else's silence. You can start coming home to yourself. Silent treatment isn't just about someone needing space. It's not a mature way to process conflict. It's a form of emotional withdrawal and abuse, a refusal to engage, to repair, to relate. It's a way of saying, you don't get my attention unless you behave the way I want. It's a power play, even if it's unconscious. It's a strategy that keeps the other person in control and you in confusion. And it's not your fault. When someone can't handle their own emotions, they often try to make you feel responsible for them instead of saying, I'm hurt, or I didn't like what you said or did. They shut down, they sulk, they punish you with silence. But their silence is not a reflection of your self-worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. The real shift happens when you realize you don't have to play the game anymore. You don't have to keep chasing after connection from someone who only knows how to withhold it. You can choose to step out of the dance. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you become cold or closed off. It means you choose yourself. You choose to stop negotiating your worth. You choose to stop waiting for somebody else to validate your feelings. Healing from the silent treatment isn't about getting the other person to talk. It's about honoring your feelings even when they're messy or inconvenient, giving yourself the validation you've been seeking from somebody else. And find people who meet you with presence, not silent treatment as a form of punishment. People who choose conversation over control, who know how to repair a relationship, not just retreat. And most of all, it's about remembering that your worth is not up for debate. Thank you for having the courage to face the hard things, to name the patterns, to choose something different. If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you want to go deeper, join my newsletter at aquahaura.com Rhythm, where I send frameworks to help guide you. Remember, you don't have to accept emotional abuse like silent treatment, no matter who the person is. Until next time.